Get ready for some upbeat banter, plenty of laughs, and a whole lot of love for the game and our team. This is Buds and Blue Jays. And now your hosts, Riley McConnell and Jesse Burrell.
Good evening, everyone. It is Sunday, May 12th, and welcome to episode 177 of Buds and Blue Jays, your place for all things related to the Toronto Blue Jays. Jesse Burrell here, joined as well by returning guest Jesse Turiso, as our friend Riley McConnell is still on vacation. And let me tell you, Riley is having a hell of a time on the west coast of Canada. I'm sure he'll tell you all about it. We're expecting to have him back next episode against the Baltimore Orioles. So the baseball boomer will be here before long. But in the meantime, we're joined by another baseball boomer, a guy you know well. He was here on our last episode, Jesse Turiso, my man. Welcome back to the show. Glad to have you.
Glad to be back and ready to talk about these Jays yet again.
Yes. A little few housekeeping notes before we really dive into this series. First one, as mentioned, happy Mother's Day to everyone who is listening. I know moms have played a great role in our lives, and I know they played a life in all of the baseball players, including all the Toronto Blue Jays. So happy Mother's Day to you guys. One, as mentioned, Riley McConnell will be back next week, so we'll have him then. And two, we didn't record an episode against the Phillies series. One, because it was kind of a depressing time. The Blue Jays just went through a team meeting. That first game, they did not look good, and they were able to get a win in game two, but it was a little tough. So we took a little bit of a break. We thought that was a good time, but now we're back and we have so much more to react to in this series. Jesse, man, without further ado, let's just get into it. What happened in this series at home against the team that eliminated us from the playoffs last year, the Minnesota Twins. Game one of this series, the Blue Jays fell 3-2. It was the same thing. We couldn't get the offense going. Yusei Kikuchi pitched what might have been the best start he's ever had as a Toronto Blue Jay. We'll dive into more of that later this episode. The Blue Jays had a rally late, but Ernie Clement had a ball that hit the pitcher and right to the first baseman. And if that's not a symbol of the Blue Jays season, I don't know what is. Game two, the Blue Jays won this one 10-8. We made a comeback down 7-1 as the Minnesota Twins hammered Kevin Gausman early. But after Zach Pop allowed a home run, the rest of the bullpen shut the door down, and the Blue Jays were able to crawl back, getting lots of home runs in the process. Their biggest comeback win of the year, in fact, their highest run scoring output of the year, winning that game 10-8. And then just as we thought maybe things were turning a corner for the Toronto Blue Jays team, they muster two hits against Bailey Ober and the Minnesota Twins, and were not able to get the job done. And it felt like the exact same old Blue Jays. Jesse, we're 4 games under 500 as things stand. We're outside of the playoff picture. Things are looking pretty bleak for our Toronto Blue Jays right now. Give me a gut check feeling. How are we feeling as fans about this team?
I'm ready to hit the panic button yet again and just almost ready to set the team afire and just blow it up.
I don't think you're not alone here, man. I've been listening to a lot of Blue Jays talk and Blue Jay Central, and let me tell you, fans everywhere are giving up. Maybe not giving up, but they are ready to let go of this Toronto Blue Jays team. It's a tough go, and it seems like you're part of that as well.
Oh, definitely. I know I've been texting you saying this and like thinking of what we can do to make it better, but the only thing I'm seeing now is just fix our farm system.
So you're saying, okay, so the way I look at this here is that the Blue Jays really have 3 options for the rest of the season. And I think before we really dive into this series and what happened, we should kind of explore these 3 options for the Toronto Blue Jays. The first one is you hold. You can put a plan in place. You let this thing play out. Baseball's a weird game. Runs happen. Things will go. And then you hope Bo Bichette gets hot. George Springer can figure it out a little bit. The bullpen gets its stuff together. And we go on like a Phillies-esque run from the playoffs last year and get in and go all the way to the ALCS. That's one option. Option 2 is you flip some of the guys that are going to be free agents at the end of this year. So you trade Yusei Kikuchi for whatever you can get. You trade Jimmy Garcia for whatever you can get. Maybe some short-term, high-end prospects, and then take one more run at it. Well, you still have Romano, Bo, Vlad under contract. You take one more run in 2025, and if that doesn't work, you start the rebuild. Or your other option is you do what you suggested there. You trade everybody. You fire the GM, you fire the coach, you trade Vlad, you trade Bo, you just stock everything into the farm, and we suck for 5+ years until the next core is ready to compete. So I think you're on option 3 of those 3. Am I correct?
Oh, I definitely am. Like I said in the other episode, I'm more about the minor system right now than our main roster. Fisher Cat boys, even some of the Dunedin boys, I want up.
Wow. Yeah, because, well, hey, for what it's worth, Buffalo's offense is fantastic right now. So maybe you can come up and you can bring some of those guys up, and maybe it'll be the spark for what the Toronto Blue Jays give you this year. But I am not ready to go that mark yet, because if you do decide you are going to sell, there's not really much of a point of selling now versus selling come the trade deadline in July. So you might as well just stick it out with this roster, see if maybe you can get something out of this team and to see if there's a spark. What the Blue Jays really need to be doing right now is doing the things around the margins to improve, kind of deviating from their initial game plan of platooning so much, of like, why would you play Kevin Biggio, for example, when he's struggling so much when you have Davis Schneider, who's red hot and he should be an everyday player? Like, you got to do stuff like that. Change the batting order a little bit and, make proper bullpen decisions. Don't just put Eric Swanson there because he's supposed to be a high leverage reliever. If Nate Pearson is pitching better right now, then throw Nate Pearson. And that's the kind of things the Blue Jays need to do right now before they make the decision whether or not we're going to blow everything up or not.
I definitely agree with you on that. Like, you got to play the people who are hot and not the people who have a track record. I'm no, like, as you call me a boomer, Riley's a boomer. He would even say, you play the hot hand, you don't play with the fancy, as Kevin Barker says, the khakis stats.
Yeah. Which it's, I don't know. I love analytics just as much as the next guy, but how is there not some analytic that will just tell you, hey, this guy's hitting well right now, maybe you should play him, Anyways, we can get into that and the John Schneider decisions a little bit later, but let's get into a little bit more of the series here against the Minnesota Twins. And I want to start with the positives because we really do need some positives with this Toronto Blue Jays team right now. And I want to turn my attention to the starting rotation. We got to talk about Alek Manoah. Jesse, and what he did today. His start in Washington left more to be desired. I think it was 6 earned runs, 7 runs, 6 earned, and a bunch of walks and a bunch of hits. And I thought Alek Manoah was doomed coming into today. Minnesota, one of the hottest teams in baseball, stacked their lineup with lefties, and Alek Manoah had what might have been his best start in a long, long time. Very encouraging for Alek Manoah. Tell me what you think about Manoah's start today and what this means for the team going forward.
I definitely thought it was his best start since his runner-up to Cy Young. Mm-hmm. It felt like that the whole game was that second inning against Washington where we're like, oh, the old Manoah is back. Mm-hmm. Plus, he broke out that new hairstyle. Maybe that had to do something. He wasn't weighed down with all the big mullet he was rocking and the beard.
If you haven't seen Alek Manoah's hairstyle, I encourage you to go look it up. We'll tweet it out from our Twitter account. But man, I'm not a fashion guy. Riley McConnell is more the fashion guy on this show, and we'll get his take on it, I'm sure. But I hated it. Hated the thing.
Yeah. Everyone has their own style, and I guess Manoah needed some change, and maybe superstition. It's like when Jansen shaved off his mustache mid-game a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. Yep.
So maybe that hairstyle made him find his old self again, and his brought out his Miami style.
Hey, if it works, I do not care what you look like as long as you are putting up results. So I give Alek Manoah credit for that. In terms of what he did on the mound today, he threw a lot of changeups, which is typically the weapon you want to use as a right-handed pitcher against a team full of lefties, which is what the Minnesota Twins lined up against him today. I think he threw 30% changeups. I'd have to go back and look at the number, but it was a lot. And he had results from it. He said after that start in Washington that he wanted to attack hitters, and he only fell behind 2-0 to 2 batters all game. One of them was the 4-pitch walk he had, and the other batter he fell behind 2-0 to was Carlos Santana, who owns the Blue Jays and ultimately hit the home run that knocked Alek Manoah out of the game. Aside from that, Alek Manoah was pounding the zone. He was doing some good things, and his mechanics still look a little out of whack to me, but he's deserved another start for sure. And maybe this is a sign of good things to come, especially if he's going to be our 5th starter going forward.
No, I totally agree with you. Like, if for a 5th start, you just want someone consistency can give you at least 5 innings. And I think I saw on a stat line too, like of his 71 pitches he had, 55 were strike. I'll take that any day.
Huge. That should be the first thing you look at when you're looking at an Alek Manoah performance right now. And I think the main question the Jays are going to try to answer with Alek Manoah is this guy going to be part of your rotation in 2025 and 26 and 27 and beyond? And if he keeps putting together starts like this, I think we can safely say that will be the case. I want to turn things over to Yusei Kikuchi, Jesse, on Friday night, and it was a depressing night for the Toronto Blue Jays, but man, did Yusei Kikuchi shine bright for that one. 8 innings pitched. The only other time he's gone 8 innings in a game was when he was in Seattle and he was playing against the Toronto Blue Jays and he threw a gem. This was the best I have seen Yusei Kikuchi look, and I think that's 6 straight starts now where he's been fantastic. If anything, he is increasing his trade value, and I kind of want the Jays to re-sign Kikuchi. I want to see him part of here long term, but it looks really, really good, and I'm starting to believe Yusei Kikuchi is probably our best pitcher right now. If we had a must-win game we need to win tomorrow, I think Yusei Kikuchi is the guy I want on the mound.
100%. Yusei Young returns again, and now he leads after Berrios' blow up in Philly. We're not talking about that. He leads the Jays in ERA, and if I was playing a win an end game, I would put Kikuchi in a heartbeat. Will not even think about it. I wouldn't even look at the stats.
Who would be next then on your playoff series? Would you be going Chris Bassett, Jose Barrios, who's coming off 8 earned runs he just gave up in Philadelphia, or would you go Kevin Gausman, who's just got lit up again by the Minnesota Twins, which is a trend for him? Who would you rather play if after Kikuchi between those starting pitching options?
It really depends on the matchup, because if it is the Twins we're facing, I would never put Gausman in because the Twins are his daddy.
Yep.
So right now, even though he had that blow up against Philly, I'd put Barrios. He's been, other than that one game, was on the top candidate for the Cy Young in the American League.
Yeah. ESPN had a bunch of stat trackers and stuff saying that Jose Barrios is well on his way to Cy Young. I did point out, because we didn't talk about it in the Phillies series, but Jose Barrios, his expected stats under the hood had an ERA closer to 4-ish for Jose Barrios, based on how he's pitching. I didn't expect all that regression to happen in one start, which it did against the Phillies, but hey, so be it. I'd expect him to be better next time, and we'll see him against Baltimore. But in going on with Kevin Gausman in that start against Minnesota, I feel like he had revenge on his mind too, because what we normally see with Kevin Gausman is that he'll start out with slow fastball velocity, and then he slowly ticks it up as the game goes on, or when he gets to 2 strikes. He was gunning right from the start. That first inning, Kevin Gausman, he was throwing 95, 96, 97 with the fastball. And I really thought, okay, this is Kevin Gausman's best stuff, but yet it didn't matter as Minnesota still hit him. So I'm very curious to see what Minnesota has on Kevin Gausman, because if that gets spread around the league, he could be in big trouble.
Oh, 100%. Like I just said, that's saying who's your daddy, what does he do? Minnesota is Kevin Gausman's daddy. They're it's like when you face your dad and you face your kid throwing a ball and you hit the home run off him and just own them. It's just you're that bully, just bullying people.
Yeah. It's like they know they can do better than them at any point, eh?
Yeah, exactly. It's being the older sibling and just be I can do what I want to you because you can't do anything and stop me.
All right. Well, you know who's really the Toronto Blue Jays daddy, at least in this series? Carlos freaking Santana, man. I don't understand why the Blue Jays continue to pitch to him. Game 3 today, they had a base open. Manoah fell behind 2-0. Why don't you do the intentional walk, pitch to Christian Vazquez? And if Christian Vazquez is the one that beats you, then so be it. We gotta almost give Carlos Santana the Shohei Ohtani treatment, because he's wrecked us.
No, he's wrecked us his whole career. Even when a few years ago in the wild card series against Seattle, he owns us. And I heard it said too while I was watching the highlights of the game today. Mm-hmm. This is his second series with 3 home runs in one series, and I don't think a Jay has done 3 home runs pretty much all year.
I don't think so, unless Varsho in that Royal series or that Padres series, whatever it was, Varsho got hot. Maybe he had 3, but that would be the only time. And even then, I don't think that's the case either. And look, I remember I went to Pittsburgh last May. Carlos Santana hit a home run then for the Pirates, and he's done it even with Cleveland going into his early career. I don't want to see the Blue Jays if he gets traded from Minnesota somewhere else in the second half of the season. I don't want to see Carlos. I think we need to sign him so that way he doesn't play against us going forward. But that's a story for another day. The reason we can't. Oh, go ahead. I
was saying, and the crazy thing is too, he's 38 and he's still dominant like he was when he was in his early 20s.
Wow, what's it like having a consistent offensive production at a later age in life or for a baseball player? But anyways, let's touch in on the offensive side of the baseball for the Toronto Blue Jays because look, we did score 10 runs in game 2, but then we scored 2 in game 1. We scored 1 in game 3. It was a bit of both worlds. We got the good, we got the bad. I want to start with the good, I suppose. And the good thing is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. keeps on raking. He is hitting the ball harder than he ever has. He had a bunch more hard hits. I think he had a 4-hit game in game 2 of this series with a lot of hard hit ground balls. Even his out was a rocket to right field that the right fielder just caught. And I wanted to throw some love to Bo Bichette. And I know he's been struggling. I know he's been terrible. And I know he's moved down in the order. But I want to say he finally showed some signs of life here. He did hit a home run. I don't know the distance, but it was a no-doubter. It was a bomb from Bo Bichette here. And he also had a bunch of hard hit balls in game 2. He had a few more in game 3. I want to say things are starting to turn around from Bo Bichette. Maybe it's just the blind optimist in me here, but I do think we are slowly starting to see things coming around from a quality of contact perspective from Bo Bichette. So any thoughts on those two, Jesse, or did you have another player you wanted to show some love to?
I totally agree. Like I saw another stat about Vlad after that horrible error against Kansas City. He leads the league, leads all of MLB with hard hit balls over 110 miles.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Nice.
And he has more hard hit balls than Ohtani, and Ohtani's been on the heater for the Dodgers. So it's like he's definitely putting in work. If only those balls were going over the fence, maybe we'd be in a different spirit right now. But I'll take that, and also pretty much hitting safe in, I believe it's 10 of the last 12 games or 11 of the last 12.
Yeah, something like that. I think he's only had one game where he hasn't got on base in the last 2 weeks. So good things are coming from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Jesse, man, I can't believe it's taken us this long in the show to talk about Danny Jansen or Davis Schneider, but they both did great things in the series. Tell me about him.
Davis Schneider should be our leadoff, like I said last week. Springer's gone over. Yes, he was sick. He got a walk, but he still can't hit the ball. He should be hitting somewhere in the 8 to 9 spot. Let Davis Schneider rake. He's one of our hottest hitters. I love that they brought up Jano, but he's still not high enough in my book. Both of them hit home runs. And we even got surprise power from IKF. We'll talk about that later. But Jansen and Schneider are our two best hitters. We need to get them up more, even if they're not playing. Have them in DH. But Schneider needs to be our leadoff hitter for the rest of the year. And if not, I don't know what I'll do.
I mentioned this last episode, and I've been thinking a lot about George Springer. Remember last year when John Schneider did move George Springer down in the lineup a little bit? They had him for maybe a 3-4 week time where they had George Springer hitting cleanup for a while. And eventually they moved him back, and somebody asked John Schneider about why did you move George Springer back to the leadoff spot? He usually is good at like bumbling and saying nothing when it comes to this. Is like, oh, it's all about what I think is best for the team. But that was the firmest I've ever seen John Schneider when he was like, George Springer is our leadoff hitter. End of question. Like, done. That is it. So I don't know if he promised something to George Springer and his agents, or if maybe George Springer has something on him. Maybe George Springer is just refusing. I mean, maybe if he refuses to play, that would be a good thing. I don't know at this point, but it's, I don't know what it is. And maybe John Schneider just sees, look, this team is going to go once George Springer goes, so maybe just get him the most at-bats possible and see if he can get going. But I think he can get going in the 8th spot just as well. And if you really want to do things to win as much games as possible right now, like who would you rather have in a clutch situation right now? 2nd and 3rd, 2 out. Would you rather have Davis Schneider hitting or George Springer hitting? I think every Blue Jay fan everywhere would say Davis Schneider. And if that's the case, he needs to be your leadoff hitter right now.
Oh, 100%. I'd rather have Schneider over Vladdy or Bo or any of our big name players. Schneider, Jansen, I know they'll drive runs in, or if not, get at least a sac fly to get the guy from 3rd in.
Which Danny Jansen did do in this series, and which Davis Schneider has shown. Look, he had that bad at bat in game 1 where he had runners on base and he wasn't able to get the runners in, but he's been very good the rest of the series. If you look at some of the like batted ball metrics, Davis Schneider is one of the best. He had a line drive out to 2nd base too, where he smoked it. I think it was over triple digits for sure. Beautiful stuff from Babe Schneider. he's really impressive, man. He's an everyday player. I don't want to see this platooning stuff anymore. I want to see him hitting top 5 in the lineup every single day. I do want to talk before we move on to some of the hitters that have gone really cold with the Toronto Blue Jays. We got to talk about Daniel Vogelbach and what is happening here with him on the roster. He got the start in game 3, which, okay, he's on your roster. You got to play him. Get him in there against a soft, I say soft throwing because he only threw 91, 92. But Bailey Ober, his fastball isn't the most. You thought, hey, good matchup for Daniel Vogelbach. He went 0 for 2. He had a line drive out, which should have been a single, but it wasn't out. And then you pinch hit for him in the 6th for Danny Jansen with the bases loaded, which I understand they brought in a lefty. You pinch hit Danny Jansen for the righty. But my question is, if you're going to pinch hit your designated hitter, a guy who's going to be here for power, and yeah, you can't keep him in the lineup all time, then I don't understand what his point is or what his spot is doing on the roster. Like, I think it's time to move on. You mentioned before the show Spencer Horwitz, and I think that makes a great fit. It makes a lot of sense. Not only is he younger, he's cheaper for them, the Toronto Blue Jays. He's even gives you a little bit of positional versatility, and like he's 26 years old. So if he sits on the bench and doesn't play for a week, I don't think you're really hurting Spencer Horwitz's development that much. So I agree with you there. Do you have another thought or something else we should do with Daniel Vogelbach on the time?
No, I definitely am. I was excited for him at spring training. I was telling you, like, I was ready for the Vogel bombs, calling him Danny Burgers. Like, I was all about the hype train. I even said I would buy a jersey if he hits 20 home runs. But he'll be lucky to even get 20 at bats.
Yeah.
And
look, go ahead.
I was going to say, and like I was saying before the show, like, there's so many players on the biases. Like, Horwitz has a 979 OPS right now. 23 RBIs. Both those would be leading the Jays right now. Has a 349 average. I think he's MLB ready. Like, he's not a 4A player.
Yeah, he's already made his MLB debut, so you're already doing the service time game with him too. It's like, put him up here. Like, Joey Votto he's doing some baseball activities, yes, but he's still a long ways away. Side note, that must have been the worst ankle injury I've ever heard of from Joey Votto, by the way, if it's kept him out for this long, but that's a conversation for another day. Orelvis Martinez hit his 10th home run of the season today. Maybe bring him up if you want some power, but look, Daniel Vogelbach, I still think, is a major league player. He could definitely play on some team somewhere, get a run, and put up good numbers. It's just a very awkward fit because you're not moving Vlad, and Justin Turner's been struggling lately, sure, but I think we'd all still rather have Justin Turner in the lineup than Daniel Vogelbach right now, and he's just taking up space, a lot of it, and I think it's better to use his spot on the roster for something else.
Totally. It's metaphorically taking up space and literally with how big he is. Like,
yeah. I'm glad you picked up on that.
Oh yeah, I'd rather have Bradley Zimmer than him.
Ooh, hey, that's fan favorite Bradley Zimmer over there. In terms, like Nathan Lucas. Like, if you're looking for the pinch runner, Bradley Zimmer type fielder, Nathan Lucas is probably a better option than Daniel Vogelbach right now. So, I think it won't be long before we see his spot on the roster come to be. Did you have any more thought on any of those before we talk about some less struggling hitters and then maybe some bullpen stuff?
No, well, I'm ready. We can move on there, and I could go way longer, but we got a bit of a time crunch.
We got more to get to, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but Justin Turner and Cavan Biggio have both been dreadful lately at the thing, and I don't want to take the victory lap on Justin Turner yet, frankly, because I want Justin Turner to hit better, hit good. The team is doing better when he does, but he's starting to look... He's going through one of those phases, I think, that we're going to see from Justin Turner. Maybe he'll get hot again, but he's really riding it right now. And the other one is Cavan Biggio, man, who just looks lost at the plate right now. If you remember in the first half of last season, Cavan Biggio really struggled as well. And then he found it a little bit. And I do want to give him credit. In game 1, he did draw a very impressive walk, did Cavan Biggio. So that is what he'll do. But the quality of contact from Cavan Biggio is just simply not there. And I don't really understand, like, you can play him in right, I guess, when George Springer isn't available to play in right, and he can play a little bit. But I'd rather play Isaiah Kiner-Falefa every day over Cavan Biggio right now. And if you'd rather do that, then I don't really know what you can do with him on your roster at the moment.
Oh, totally. Like I thought Bubble Biggio was back from the COVID year and his rookie year, but he's just lost. Like, I hate to say, like, if you were able to send him down, I'd send him down, bring up like Horwitz or another lefty bat like Barger and keep him up, because I feel like they'd be give us more production than Biggio right now. And Turner maybe maybe you're right. Maybe the age is catching up for him. But then again, you see other 40-year-olds doing great stuff at like Carlos Santana, and it's just like, where's the first month turning? Like, he just disappeared.
Yeah, I'm getting so many Matt Chapman vibes from how he was the best hitter in baseball for the start of last year and then was just literally a league average bat the rest of the year. I'm worried that is what's going to happen from Justin Turner. The good news is if that's the case, then more DH at bats become available for guys like Danny Jansen, Davis Schneider, or Elvis Martinez if he does come up here and all that other stuff. So there is a positive for that. Cavan Biggio, 3 minor league options still available. So it would not surprise me if those slumps still continue that the Blue Jays might actually look at doing a swap there, because I think it's almost time to move on from Cavan Biggio. Like, his upside isn't really that high. The versatility is nice. I do think he's going to have a big postseason moment at some point in his career. Just don't think it's going to happen with the Toronto Blue Jays. So maybe it's time to move on from him as well. Jesse, to the bullpen. And some interesting things did happen on the Blue Jays side of the bullpen. In game 1, we had Genesis Cabrera come in protecting a 1-run lead. He threw a cookie right down the middle. It got crushed. An insurance run came in, which ended up being the difference in that game. In game 2, Zach Pop was the first reliever in after Kevin Gausman got shelled. He gave up a home run, but I did want to throw some credit where credit is due. It was an 8-3 ball game at the time. Trevor Richards went 6 up, 6 down. Looked very good there. We got to get our first look back at Jimmy Garcia, and Jimmy Garcia remains excellent in there. Eric Swanson had his first 1-2-3 inning of the season in that game, and I'm thinking, oh man, Eric Swanson's back. Spoiler alert, he sucked today. He is not back. More of the same from Eric Swanson. And even Jordan Romano pitched effectively in game 2, and thought he did okay. Nate Pearson looked really good in game 3 today. Did you have a thought on the bullpen here?
All I can say is thank God for Trevor Richards, and I am so on the same page as you with Eric Swanson. I saw that stat line yesterday. I was like, "Oh, he's back." I looked today, and I'm like, "Well, Groundhog Day."
Yep.
It's Groundhog Day. Like, same stuff, different pile.
Do you think John Schneider used Eric Swanson right in this game? We were down a little bit late. I think it was a 3-1 game at the time. Alek Manoah was just pulled. It was the top of the 8th inning. Is that the spot you'd want to use Eric Swanson right now?
Yes and no. Like, I just, like, right now how Swanson is, I don't have any really comfort right now where I want to put him. I just don't want him in a like high leverage or like close game situation right now till he figures it out. Like, I know eventually we're going to have reinforcements coming back where we won't have to rely on Swanson, but I would have loved to see like maybe bring Jimmy Garcia in, or like even Pearson in like earlier than he was in today.
Right. So just really quickly, let's just touch the bullpen on like who are guys that we can trust. So Jordan Romano, Jimmy Garcia, they're in your circle of trust, correct?
For now. For now, they are.
Bullpen performance is fickle, but yes, I agree with you. Is Nate Pearson in there?
He's definitely, I like you, me, you have always been a Pearson guy, and I even have
McConnell screaming right now saying hell no, but you know.
And same as Isaac, but
yeah,
don't want to understand our love for him. But like, I even have a photo from Winterfest years ago before he was our number 1 prospect. So I definitely been a Pearson guy. So he's always been up there for me.
Okay, is Trevor Richards in your circle of trust right now?
Unfortunately, he has to be, because he's probably him and Jimmy Heaters has been the most like consistent for us all year. Right.
So like we're dangerously close to having Trevor Richards, a guy who the Blue Jays fans wanted DFA'd so much last year, in there. Like your lefties, Tim Meza, Genesis Cabrera, and I'll throw in Zach Pop, even though he's a righty. Like any of them in your circle of trust?
I'd take Pop over Meza and Cabrera. I'd even take Little over Meza.
Who's down in Buffalo right now? Yeah, like it's tough for this Blue Jays bullpen right now, and it's I'd say it's hard to see us getting better, but if you really look at the Blue Jays like top prospect list, like if you cut it off at 15, like 7 of the Blue Jays top 15 top prospects are relievers. So maybe there is a hope that someone can come in and find a spark for this bullpen team. But yeah, it's part of the main reason the Blue Jays are not winning games right now. And it's very interesting to know. A few minor things. Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, like last episode, it's the blowpen, not a bullpen.
We've given up the most home runs in the American League from our pitching staff, by the way, and our bullpen has given the most. In fact, our home run to fly ball ratio for the Blue Jays pitchers is the worst in baseball, which you could say is a measure of luck, sure, but it's not promising when the ball goes in the air that it's turning into home runs as frequently as it is. And one of the ways like your bullpen turns into a blowpen is give up home runs, which is exactly what the Blue Jays pen is doing right now. Not things you exactly want to see.
No, exactly. Like I have whiplash watching the bullpen pitch.
Jesse, did you catch on the game today? I think it was after maybe it was yesterday when Bo Bichette hit a home run. They followed him into the dugout. Did you see the red carpet that the Blue Jays had in the dugout? Did you see this?
I saw pictures of it. I was confused at first. I don't know what I think about it. I'm not going to lie. The only celebration I really like for the home runs, and it is an AL East rival, is the water bong by the Orioles. Like,
just they spray everyone with the water, yeah.
Well, and I don't know why I like that. It's like the inner frat boy style, like of how young they are. So it makes sense. But that red carpet, we're nothing but we're no celebrities right now, or as Mitch Marner says, gods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I can't speak on Mitch Marner, but it does seem very interesting that the Blue Jays are trying something. Remember a few weeks ago when Vladdy said the home run jacket was coming back? That never happened. And I wonder what that is. Is that like a tone inside the locker room where Vladdy just wants to have fun and there are guys saying like, no, like we don't deserve that, or what's going on, or Vladdy, this isn't your team? I don't know. Maybe I'm looking way too into this. At least the Blue Jays are doing something now when they get a home run. So I'll take that as a positive.
Well, it's definitely better than last year's Pirates celebration with the fist pump.
I don't know if I remember that one. Tell me more.
When they would hit a home run and they would just do the fist pump like the.
Oh yes. The art coming through. Yeah. I remember that. It's something. I am all for teams having fun, but boy, when you're down 7-1 and you hit a solo and Danny Jansen hits a solo home run, like yeah, we're happy for Danny Jansen, but man, it's. You need a little more. There, think of something. At least we're not throwing summer sausages at each other like the Twins are. But I
want to know how rotten that is, because I think they've had that since their first win streak.
Yeah, I have so many questions about that, but that is a topic for another day. Maybe the Blue Jays going to get something in there. I don't know.
And how did they even get across the border?
Yeah, great point, honestly. How do you explain that to a border guard? Yeah, we're just going to carry this meat that we're not allowed to carry across border. Anything. Yeah, great question. I'm going to have to dive into that and see if we can figure out what's going on there. We're running out of time here, Jesse, but just a few notes on the farm. One, Aaron Sanchez is back. And the Sanchez is not the guy we thought he would be. He had no strikeouts. He pitched 3 innings, I think 5 earned runs. I don't exactly have the line here, but it was not good. But basically what's happening is Buffalo just needs guys to pitch. And Aaron Sanchez is one in there. If he gets 1 inning with the Toronto Blue Jays this year, I think it'll be a great story. And we are rooting for Aaron Sanchez. Quick thought on him before we get into the injury updates.
I thought I was in a time warp when I saw that signing. I was like, What year is it?
Yeah, what year is this? I don't know. I always believed in Aaron Sanchez. Him coming out in that 2015-16 seasons were so good. He should have won the Cy Young in 2016 as far as I'm concerned, and he never quite found it. Him and Stroman had their beef, and he never was able to really become the pitcher we thought Aaron Sanchez could have been, but glad to see he's still grinding away.
And those dang blisters got him.
Yeah, blisters. They're more serious than we think, but they did definitely take Aaron Sanchez's career downhill a little bit. In terms of injury updates, Bowden Francis threw a 42-pitch, 2-inning bullpen on Thursday. Felt good. Next step will be another bullpen or maybe straight into a rehab assignment. The Blue Jays want him to just strict into the bullpen for Bowden Francis when he comes back. I want to see him as a starter again. I still very much believe in Bowden Francis. I'm buying what he did this spring, but we will see. Yariel Rodriguez was throwing a little bit. He's throwing from flat ground. He's still playing catch, playing up to 90 feet, which is good. Chad Green threw a bullpen session Friday. It's his first time throwing off a mound since he hit the IL in mid-April. And Ricky Tiedemann has resumed throwing from flat ground at the Blue Jays complex in Dunedin. It's probably going to be a couple weeks, though, still until he starts throwing off a mound. Out of those injuries, is there any takeaways to take out of that?
I'm like you with Bowden Francis. My bull take was top 10 Cy Young. I want Riley to get his tattoo on him.
Yes, it's like so unlikely now. Bowden Francis would have to go on like a CC Sabathia-esque run for that to happen, but not going to happen. But, we need to see if he is a guy we can use in the future.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Hey, I'm all about Bowden Francis. That curveball was nasty in spring. I'm not much of this. Like, he dresses like he's in the 70s, the weirdest style, but I love it.
It's great. He's a pitcher. Pitchers are weird. And that's a takeaway you can take to the bank there. Jesse, we don't have time to get into it. The Jays are going to face the Baltimore Orioles, the first place Baltimore Orioles, by the way, who are playing at a .667 winning percentage. Jays are ice cold. The Orioles are red hot. We're going to their barn where we never play well. How are we going to do, man? Positives, we've got Barrios, Bassett, and Kikuchi on the mound. So how are we going to do?
I'm nervous for Bassett's start because last year the Orioles owned him. And I really don't want to sound like a negative Nancy, especially because I am a Jays fan, but I can see us getting swept.
No one would be surprised if Baltimore sweeps us.
Like, we're allergic to offense. Like, we don't score runs. Unless it's a miracle like Saturday was.
And remember how we just talked about Carlos Santana owning us? Well, Ryan Mountcastle freaking owns the Blue Jays too. So, like, I think there's a lot more coming from them, and we will see. Either way, we will be back to recap the series against Baltimore, whether it be Wednesday night or it be on Thursday. We have a lot to say then. Hopefully, we have some more positive storylines to come on with the Toronto Blue Jays. Maybe the offense gets going a little bit. Who knows what they might have? There could be a lot more talking points coming out of that series. Riley McConnell will be back then too, so we get to hear a lot from him, and I'm sure he has a lot to say about how this Toronto Blue Jays team has been playing over the course of the few days. Jesse, anything else to add before we get out of here today?
No, just again, happy Mother's Day to all the moms, especially my wife Ashley. Happy Mother's Day. You do a great job. And to my mom too, happy Mother's Day.
Pleasure to my mom. You were the one who got me into Blue Jays baseball, and whether or not that's a good thing is yet to be decided, but here we are making a life out of our fandom with the Toronto Blue Jays. So happy Mother's Day from Jesse. From Jesse 1, from Jesse 2, and I'm sure Riley McConnell says it as well. We will see you guys next week to recap the series against the Baltimore Orioles. In the meantime, let's go Blue Jays.
Let's go Jays.